Alright guys, welcome back to part 2 of today's lesson. In part 1 we learned about incomplete dominance. We did some practice problems and checked them. We also learned about codominance. You had to pause the video and do the practice problems for codominance. So now you should be done with part 2 of your practice worksheet, and let's go ahead and check it to make sure that we're understanding what's going on. So in our first example, we have chickens with black feathers that are codominant with white feathers. The hybrid is called a checkered chicken. It's a black and white spotted chicken. We're going to cross a checkered chicken with a black chicken to determine the possible phenotypes for the baby chicks. So the first parent is a checkered chicken. That means they have to have one black gene and one white gene. The second parent is a black chicken. In order to be a black chicken, they need 2 black genes. So we'll cross our checkered chicken with the black chicken, and we'll use our Punnett squares to predict the genotype ratios, and from there we can figure out the phenotype ratios. So here we have big B, big B, big B, big B, so 1/2 or 50% are big B, which equals black, and the other half, or 50%, are big B, big W, and that tells us that those chickens are checkered. So with this cross between a checkered chicken and a black chicken, 50% of the offspring are likely to be black, 50% of the offspring are likely to be checkered. Let's move on to cows. In cows, red fur, big R, is codominant with white fur, big W. The heterozygous is roan. A roan cow is a red cow with white spots. So let's cross a roan cow with a roan bull. So we've got a cow with a big R and a big W. So they've got red and white spots. And the bull has a red trait, a red gene, and a white gene, again, having red and white spots. So we will cross these 2 cows. And list the possible phenotypes. So here we have our big R. That cow will be red. So we got a 25% chance of red. This cow here and this cow here. Big R, big W. Those cows will have red and white spots. We call those roan, and 50% chance of having a roan cow offspring. And this guy down here, big W, that cow will be white with those 2 white genes, and so there's a 25% chance there. If you need to, pause the video to make corrections on your practice handout. When you're ready, go back to your notes. We are going to talk about one last type of non-Mendelian inheritance. In order to do that, we're going to talk a little bit about sex chromosomes and sex-linked traits. So take a look here at this karyotype. Karyotype is a picture of all of the chromosomes in the human body. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, or 46 total. 22 pairs, or 44 of these, are autosomal, which means that they just control regular old traits. And 1 pair is our sex chromosomes. Here are the sex chromosomes right down here. You can either have an X chromosome or Y chromosomes. Females have 2 X's. A male would have an X and a Y. So let's quickly take a look at how our traits, our sex traits, are inherited. Let's talk a little bit about the chromosomes themselves. Y chromosomes are very large in comparison to our small Y. X chromosomes are very large in comparison to our small Y chromosomes. Therefore, X chromosomes carry many traits, and Y chromosomes carry very few traits, and the traits that Y chromosomes carry are really not critical to survival, which is why women can survive without a Y chromosome. Many of the X chromosome characteristics and traits are really, really important. Females are going to inherit an X chromosome from both parents. The males inherit the X chromosome from their mother because they need to inherit the Y chromosome from their father. So let's take a look at just how sex chromosomes are inherited themselves. Don't write any of this down, just watch. So we have a mother, if we're just looking at sex chromosomes by themselves, females have 2 X's and males have an X and a Y. So if we do this cross between a male and a female, and we're just looking at the sex chromosomes, we can see that there's a 50% chance of the offspring being a girl, and we can see here that we have a 50% chance of the offspring being a boy. And that's why there's a 50-50 chance of having a boy or a girl when somebody gets pregnant, because of these sex chromosomes and how they're inherited. So now let's talk about sex-linked traits. These would be traits that are carried on our sex chromosomes. For example, the disease hemophilia, which is a blood disorder, is carried on the Y chromosome. Baldness is carried on the Y chromosome, and colorblindness is also carried on the Y chromosome. So let's take a look at how one of these particular traits, hemophilia, which is a blood clotting disease, is transferred from parents to offspring. So remember, it's carried on our X chromosomes, and so we have a normal X chromosome would be X big H here. A chromosome that carries the trait, the disease, would be X little h. Okay, let's do an example, and I want you to write this down on your notes, with a cross between a female carrier and a normal male. So let's take a look at what the parent genotypes would be. A carrier means that the woman does not have the disease, but she carries a chromosome with the disease trait on it. The normal male has an X and a Y, and his X chromosome is normal, has a big H. The Y chromosome doesn't carry that trait, so we do not write anything up here. We leave that blank. So we are going to fill in our Punnett square. So here's the male and the female. And when we cross the two and we put them in the boxes, we can calculate the probability of different things. So again, if we look, we have females here and here, so there's a 50% chance of having a female. There's a 50% chance of having a male. So now let's look at the specific traits of these males and these females. This female is totally normal without the disease. This male is totally normal without the disease, because he has a big H. And this female is also normal because she has a big H that covers up the little h. Let me switch colors here. She's got a big H that covers up the little h. So she's normal, but we consider her to be a carrier because she carries the gene for that particular trait, but she does not have the disease. And finally, we have this male. He's got a little h, which means he is going to have the trait, and this Y chromosome has no trait on it, no gene on it to cover this up. So this person would have the trait. So if we were to look at this particular cross, there's a 100% chance that they'll have a normal female, a 50% chance that they'll have a normal male, or a 50% chance of having a diseased male. Overall, there's a 75% chance of having a normal offspring and a 25% chance of having a diseased offspring, and that diseased offspring is definitely going to be male. Here you can pause the video, and you're going to do part 3 of your practice handout. You've got a cross with a sex-linked trait. When you are done with part 3 of your practice, go ahead and play the video again and check your work. Alright, so you are done now with part 3. We're going to take a look at muscular dystrophy, which is an inherited sex-linked recessive gene. Jack has muscular dystrophy. Neither of his parents have the disease. Jane, Jack's wife, does not have muscular dystrophy, but her father does. So we're going to try to figure out what fraction of the daughters and what fraction of the sons of Jack and Jane would have muscular dystrophy. So if Jack has muscular dystrophy, remember Jack is a male, so he has an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. If he has muscular dystrophy, that means he has to have the trait. I'm going to use a little n. Big N means normal, little n will mean they have the disease. The wife has 2 X chromosomes. She does not have muscular dystrophy, so she has at least 1 normal gene, but her father does, which means that she has to have she has to be a carrier for that trait, a little n. So if I do this cross, there's the father's genes, here's the mother's genes, here's our first possibility for a female, okay, and here's our second possibility of a female there. Here is our first male, And here is the second possibility for the male. All right, so if we take a look at this cross, let's look at the daughters first. So the daughters are these right here. Okay, and if we look, this daughter here is normal because the big N covers up the little n. And this one here is disease. She's got 2 little n's, so she's going to have the disease. So the fraction of the daughters expected to have muscular dystrophy is 1/2. Now let's take a look at the sons. This son is normal because he's got a big N. This son has the disease because he has a little n, and there's nothing to cover it up because the Y doesn't carry any of these genes. So 1/2 of the sons would also have muscular dystrophy. All right, coming up next class, between now and the next time I see you guys, I'd like you to just make sure that you're reviewing all of your genetics materials. You've got notes, you've got practice handouts, because next class we're going to do a little review on all of these things, and in the class after that we're going to be taking a quiz on this material. At this time, our lesson is done. If there's still more time left in class, you need to spend it working quietly and independently on something else. Ask the sub nicely if you can go get some homework from your locker. Please make sure that you're using this time effectively and wisely, and that you are quietly and independently working. I will see you guys on Tuesday. Bye.